Welcome to the Council's first event of the year. This is the best attended event ever. Thank you very much for coming from all over the world. What I can say, we already are starting to make major inroads and impact with the community at large, both in Washington, D.C. and on Wall Street. This is behind closed doors. You can say whatever you want. And that's very refreshing. We need the truth to be able to propose real solutions to the problems. The goal of this council is to get to the truth from people who really know. We have here a real star. She's going to address the budget deficit and how to deal with it. Congresswoman Hayworth from New York.
Thank you all for being here. This is a privilege, and I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. I'm going to be brief. We'll have a lot of opportunity to get to the directed questions. Will, I think, make this experience richer, certainly for me, and I hope will make it even more worthwhile for you. I'm a physician, surgeon by profession. I'm an ophthalmologist. I trained here in the city. I went to Princeton University, then Cornell Med. I grew up in Indiana, incidentally, public school product. In 2007, I was recruited to work as a medical director at a communications company, a division of Omnicom here in the city, and was very happily doing that throughout the 2008 election cycle when I became, for my left-leaning colleagues, the resident voice of the fiscal conservative. And I got a lot of questions from them, friendly questions, as I was trying to explain to them the importance of having a federal government that respects the citizen and restrains its spending, can follow a budget, does not view the taxpayer as a source of endless resources. Basically, I was cutting my rhetorical teeth. So 2008 election came, I was exceedingly distressed, to say the least. My husband, having heard my opinions repeatedly, directed at the television primarily, said, "You should run for Congress." One thing led to another, standing start, grassroots effort, groundswell throughout the Hudson Valley of New York. I became one of the 87 freshmen in that wave election. Financial services, it's one of the most important committees. I was lucky to be placed on financial services. That's where they put all the doctors, which explains a lot about Congress. But you show up with an attitude of gratitude and humility, and you do the work, and wonderful things can happen. So I've been fortunate now to have risen within leadership in the House Republican Conference. I was on the conference committee, one of the 8 Republican negotiators selected in December to extend the payroll tax holiday. I do sit on financial services, capital markets, subcommittee, domestic monetary policy oversight. I've been able to see and to learn what is inspiring about our form of government and what is frustrating about our politics, and the structural reasons that it can be extremely difficult to address the issue of fiscal responsibility and of mounting debt and deficit spending. Essentially, we have a dual track that we follow. We have our philosophy and our principles. They are foundational. They should be inviolable. It does not mean that they are not malleable over time in a reasoned way, but they should always be observed. And then there's the politics of what we deal with, and of course that's how the sausage is made. And it's the politics that, of course, get in the way of progress, but it's also a clash of philosophies. We have a strong Republican majority that favors, by and large, favors small government, restrained government, what the Constitution gave us, an empowered citizenry, respect for the taxpayer. And we have a Senate and a president who have a very different idea of the relationship of government to the citizen, who have a very different idea of how you empower an economy. I believe with all my heart, as do most of you probably, that unfortunately with regard to fiscal policy, they're dead wrong. I think it's demonstrably so. I think it's objectively evidentiary that what they want to do is wrong. In fact, trickle-down economics actually applies far more. If you use that term derisively, it applies far more to what the federal government does. Enterprise is ground up empowering economics. It lifts everyone. It is not waiting for the federal government to deliver crumbs from its table, having had most of it devoured by bureaucracy. We have tried in the House Republican majority to bring restraint to fiscal policy. Maybe most of our citizens really don't understand fully what it means to balance the federal budget. The same thing to do as a business would be to stop accumulating debt, because debt should only be used to finance long-term investment with a plan to pay it back. And that's the idea of debt. Debt is a tool, it's an instrument. Of course, debt for this federal government funds its regular operations. That's the wrong way to use debt, but that's what we're doing. The problem is that to balance the budget, we would have to cut down on entitlement spending. Most Americans don't know what the budget pie is. Most of the circle is waste, fraud, abuse, and foreign aid. 1%, that little wedge, stuff they like. The biggest piece of the federal budget combined is the entitlements, is the social welfare program, social safety net, call it what you will, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Medicare is the looming disaster. Those programs were never indexed for age. As a business would be, let's think ahead, right? Anticipate. The government does not anticipate, legislators do not anticipate. They do not plan ahead rationally. It's easier if they don't. That's why the Senate hasn't had a budget for 3 years. To try to bring that under control, the House Republicans, with Democratic colleagues in support, have introduced a budget, both in 2011 and in 2012. You may be aware of the calendar year in which we predict, based on our budget, we will actually come into balance, including debt service, 2040. And who's going to pay for it? Well, right now, as you know, of every dollar of the federal budget, 40 cents is debt. Young people generally don't vote, and they generally don't vote in favor of fiscal restraint. But we are in a holding pattern on all of these things. Sadly, that's as far as we can go right now. We're chipping away at Dodd-Frank, the Affordable Care Act the same. We're trying to send slush funds, slow down the regulatory process, which unfortunately adds to the atmosphere of uncertainty, but it's the best we can do until November. And we will know in November where we can proceed over the next 4 years. We're hopeful that we'll have an enterprise-respecting House and Senate and White House. And full disclosure, I endorsed Governor Romney in November because I feel he'll be a good executive. The voice that you add, the resources that you deploy within the political process, the influence that you have on friends and colleagues of like mind to do the same is enormously important this year. Unfortunately, you don't have to be knowledgeable to vote, nor do you have to be knowledgeable to run for office. Thank you again for allowing me to be with you tonight. And Ziad, thank you.
The Financial Policy Council, the premier fiscal policy think tank on the way.